many different things. What I thought was wonderful, in terms of part of your mission was, to get the taste up, to increase the taste, to get the cost down, and then to be able to scale. Is
exactly
that kind of part of the vision of what you have for Orbillion?
I mean, flavor is king, right? That's the most important thing. If we want people to accept that product, it needs to be the most flavorful product that is there. The second part, scale up. Yes, it's a general industry problem. No matter what you want to produce, scale up is always difficult. The technology that we're using comes from biopharma, comes from biomedical and regenerative. But also what I want you to think about is that whatever we're doing with this, making sure that we can scale it up and bring the cost down, does not only benefit the food industry and making meat, but also it benefits humanity, because this will advance regenerative medicine and in the future will enable us to make organs and limbs and maybe even a Terminator.
What are the ethical concerns that people have, and how do you address let's say the ethical questions? What ethical questions are there, and how do you address them?
People are rightfully concerned about the safety of the products. And I think it's good that these questions are being asked. And the good thing is we can control a lot of things that you cannot control in animal agriculture. We know exactly how clean our reactor settings are sterile, right? So that's clean. We can test for contaminations. We can test for levels of certain contaminants. So all of that is very controlled, and that makes us very, we know that our products are very safe in that regard, right? The other concerns are health concerns, right? Nutrition is something very complex that is truly not very well understood, because you can't make controlled trials of feeding a group of people only this for a certain amount of time and the other group of people something else and then see who gets sick. It's not very ethical. What we know is that what we make is meat. So there are no other health effects to be expected than from regular meat. So these are the concerns that people ask. Other ethical concerns, and that's also why we talk, for me, is let's make sure that we do not harm anyone, right, in the food system, that we create jobs rather than destroy jobs. We want to bring jobs back to rural areas. And another part of the meat industry is that a lot of people work in conditions that are not very humane in meat packing plants in all around the world. And so with the products that we're making, we create other jobs in these biobreweries, but also downstream processing jobs where nobody has to kill an animal, for example.
There are always a scientist who will do what they can do rather than maybe what they should do.
So with what we're making, we can't really make, or there's not really a hybrid organism or anything that we create. We just really take the cells. They cannot become a living being. Right. It's not the technology that we're using, right? We just take the cells and multiply them for making a food product or something for regenerative medicine. So we are able to use this technology for a lot of good.
How do they view lab-based meat and kind of what you're doing?
Worldwide first regulatory approval of lab-grown meat in Singapore. It was a chicken nugget product. And what they look at is everything from where do the cells come from? How are they being produced? What are the input materials? How is the process being controlled? Is it reproducible? Meaning, when you make this product 100 times, does it always look the same? Nobody expects that, for example, from farmers, because every cow is different, right? And every pig is different. But it's very controlled. FDA will regulate the bioprocessing part, and the USDA will regulate the product making part, the downstream part. And in the European Union, there's this novel foods regulation system where lab-grown meat falls under. And I think the European Union is the one authority that's still a little bit hesitant, whereas in the US, we see a lot of movement and a lot of interest to have this first regulatory, the first product going through the regulatory process.
When can I go out and have a shelf full of these? So give us an idea of timescales, right? what are we talking about in terms of timescales?
Industry is still very young, and there's a lot of things that we need to overcome as an industry, right? In the market where you have a limited supply in the next 2 years, I think there will be more buzz around that. But to have it on supermarket shelves and in restaurant as a regular and more penetrating the market will take another 4 to 5 years, in my opinion. Real cell cultured steaks that are mostly cells and not some scaffolding or plant-based part, that will take another 10 to 15 years.
What can they do? What should they be thinking about? What can they do in really practical terms to be ready for this, to be involved in this, to be at the forefront of this?
Thing that is important is just keeping up with the news of the area and having an open mind. I think seeking dialogue and really looking how we can create the future of food together, because we all want the same. We want to feed people nutritious and good food and make a living off of it. That's something we share. Let's talk. How can we really make this future happen? I think there is sometimes the misconception that what the products that we are making are for vegans or vegetarians. They're not. 95% of the people on this planet eat meat. And as we said, there are more and more people on this planet, and more countries have more means and more money, and people are getting out of poverty, luckily, to be able to afford more protein. The target consumer for us really are meat eaters. And again, with the increasing demand for meat, I do not see that we will be threatening to farmers, to classical agriculture anytime soon.